It's a quiet Tuesday afternoon. You're sitting in a Panera with your laptop open and a coffee beside you. To everyone around you, you look like just another person getting some work done. The guy at the next table probably thinks you're catching up on emails, but you're not. You're checking 6 different business bank accounts. Over the last 30 days, those accounts brought in more than $140,000. Not from one big company, from a handful of businesses most people barely notice. A laundromat in Michigan you've never even visited, a vending machine route in Pennsylvania, a self storage facility outside Cleveland, and 2 car washes that pretty much run on their own. No one in this coffee shop has any idea. And honestly, that's the best part, because real wealth rarely looks the way social media tells you it should. It isn't always private jets, designer clothes, or a Lamborghini parked outside. Sometimes it looks like someone quietly sipping coffee while a few ordinary businesses keep making money in the background. No flashy tech startup, no huge online following, no podcast. No investors calling you the next big entrepreneur, just simple businesses, a laundromat, a trucking company, vending machines, a self storage facility. A couple of car washes, on their own, none of them sound exciting. Together, they're worth around $12 million. They bring in roughly $85,000 a month in gross revenue. And keeping everything running takes only about 11 hours a week. You're 37 years old, you don't have an office. You've never gone viral. Most of your relatives still think you do something with small businesses. They're not wrong. They just don't know you actually own them. This is the story of how buying boring businesses gave you something far more valuable than attention. It gave you freedom. Freedom to stop chasing the appearance of success and start enjoying the reality of it. Because sometimes the businesses people walk past every single day are hiding some of the simplest and most profitable opportunities out there. You're 29 years old. You work in corporate finance at a regional bank. The pay is solid, about $87, zero a year. You've got health benefits, a 401(a) match, and 2 weeks of vacation that usually expire before you ever use them. From the outside, everything looks fine. A stable career, predictable income, a clear path forward. But that's exactly what starts bothering you, because you already know how the next decade probably plays out. Senior analyst by your early 30s out a few years later if everything goes well. Maybe you'll make 110,000, maybe $120,000. Then things slow down. There's nothing wrong with that life. In fact, a lot of people would gladly trade places with you. But deep down, you can't shake the feeling that it isn't the life you actually want. One weekend, you're at a family cookout. There's way too much food, someone's guarding the grill like it's a full-time job, and at least one relative is asking when you're finally getting married. While you're making small talk, you meet one of your uncle's friends. His name is Ron. He's in his late 60s and owns a handful of small businesses. Somewhere in the conversation, almost like it's no big deal, he says, "I'm thinking about selling my laundromat in Lansing." You smile politely, because what else are you supposed to say? Then he mentions the price 240,000. Your first reaction? Absolutely not. A laundromat? It feels ordinary, kind of boring. If you're being honest, it even feels beneath everything you worked for. You have a finance degree. You work at a bank. You spend your days building financial models and analyzing numbers. Owning a laundromat was never part of the plan. But Ron keeps talking. Then he casually drops a few numbers. The business nets around $6,800 a month. The lease is in good shape. Rent is $3,200. Most of the machines are commercial speed queens installed 4 years ago. There's already an attendant who handles about 12 hours a week. The rest, it more or less runs itself. You're still not ready to buy it, but now you're curious. And curiosity has a funny way of turning into spreadsheets. So you run the numbers. $6,800 a month works out to about $81,600 a year. On a purchase price of $240,000, that's roughly a 34% annual return if the business simply keeps performing the way it already has. You stare at the calculator. Then you compare it to your savings account earning almost nothing. You compare it to your investment portfolio, which feels like a victory whenever it returns 7 or 8%, 34% versus 7. Obviously, the laundromat isn't risk-free. Businesses never are. But suddenly, the investment you almost laughed at is making your portfolio look average. So you agree to take a look, just to satisfy your curiosity. That's what you tell yourself the following Saturday. You drive 2.5 hours to Lansing. The laundromat is exactly what you expected: a strip mall, a dollar store on one side, a tax office on the other. Bright fluorescent lights, the steady hum of dryers, that familiar smell of detergent hanging in the air. Two customers are inside, one quietly folding clothes, another reading a paperback while waiting for a wash cycle to finish. Your first thought? Yup, this is exactly as boring as I imagined. But then you start paying attention. The machines are spotless, the floors are worn, but well maintained. Security cameras cover every corner. The change machine actually works. Which, as you soon learn, isn't always the case. Then you meet Laura. She's been working there for years. She knows every machine, every regular customer, and every maintenance routine. She walks you through revenue logs, repair records, vendor contacts, and operating expenses. And slowly your perspective changes. This business isn't exciting. It isn't flashy. Nobody is calling it revolutionary. There's no app, no pitch deck, no promises about disrupting an industry. People simply need clean clothes. They bring laundry. The machines do their job. Money comes in. Bills get paid. That's the business. You make an offer. Ron accepts. You put $60,000 down. Almost everything you've saved. The rest is financed through an SBA loan at 6.5% over 10 years. About 2 months later, you officially own a laundromat and immediately realize something. You have absolutely no idea what you're doing. For the next few months, you drive there every weekend, you inspect machines, watch customer patterns, review expenses, calculate utility costs, track revenue per machine. You become the kind of person who somehow knows far too much about commercial washing equipment. Every strange noise makes your stomach drop. This is it. This is the repair that wipes out my investment. Except it never happens. The occasional maintenance issue comes up. Laura handles most of it. The business just keeps operating. By month 4, you give Laura a few extra hours each week. She already understands the business better than you do. By month 6, you stop making the drive altogether. And something unexpected happens. Nothing changes. Revenue stays steady. One month it's $6,400. The next it's $7. 100. Some months are better than others, but the business doesn't suddenly collapse because you aren't standing inside the building. That's when something clicks. This is the first asset you've ever owned that doesn't depend on your personality. It doesn't care how motivated you feel. It doesn't care about your resume. It doesn't care how polished your LinkedIn profile looks. It simply needs someone to make smart decisions and avoid making bad ones. That realization leads to a dangerous question. What if you bought another one? By the time you're 31, you do exactly that. This time, it's a self-storage facility just outside Lansing, 82 units, purchase price, $320,000. Now you know exactly what you're looking for. You're not buying a job, you're buying a cash flow system. There's a huge difference. You create a checklist: reliable monthly revenue, healthy profit margins, existing staff, owners ready to retire, not owners looking for someone to unlock the business's potential. Most importantly, the business can't depend on you living nearby. It can't depend on your talent. And it definitely can't depend on your personal brand. The storage facility checks every box. It brings in around $9, $200 a month. Expenses average about $4,100. That leaves roughly $5,100 in monthly profit. You structure the deal almost exactly the same way. 25% down, finance the rest. The seller even agrees to carry part of the loan because, as he puts it, you remind him of his son. Not exactly a business strategy you planned for. But it works. You automate gate access, MEV payments online. Install simple management software. A retired electrician named Dennis checks the property twice a week and sends you updates. You've never even met him face to face. Yet somehow, everything keeps running. You're still working at the bank. No one there knows you own two businesses. When coworkers ask what you did over the weekend, you simply shrug. Nothing much. Technically, that's true. Meanwhile, your laundromat runs with Laura. Your storage facility runs with Dennis, and a few automated systems. Together, they're producing nearly $12,000 a month in net income, more than your full time salary. And they take maybe 6 hours a week to oversee, mostly reviewing reports, answering texts, approving repairs, making the occasional decision. Of course, ownership isn't completely effortless. Machines break, customers leave. A pipe bursts at the worst possible time. Sometimes you're on the phone with a plumber wondering why you ever thought this was a good idea. But there's an important difference. You're not trapped inside the business. You're not the brand. You're not creating content about laundromats or storage units. You're simply the owner. And most days, the owner's job is surprisingly simple: make good decisions, protect the systems. Then get out of the way. By 32, you're already looking for your third acquisition. And by now, you've learned something most people never realize. Finding good businesses isn't the hardest part. Accepting how boring they look, that's the real challenge. A laundromat will never make headlines. A storage facility won't make you sound interesting at a dinner party. Nobody is lining up to interview someone who owns vending machines. And that's exactly why the opportunity exists. The businesses everyone ignores are often the ones quietly producing the strongest cash flow. Without realizing it, you're only about 20 months away from walking away from your corporate job forever. You just don't know it yet. By the time you turn 33, you're ready for another acquisition. This one is a vending machine route. 38 machines scattered across Pennsylvania. Some sit inside office buildings. Others are in a community college, a couple of auto repair shops, and even a hospital break room. The owner is retiring and moving to Florida. He isn't trying to squeeze every last dollar out of the business. He just wants a clean exit. The asking price is $185,000. The route generates about $4,700 a month in revenue. After inventory, fuel, servicing, and vehicle costs, it leaves roughly $2,400 a month in profit. On its own, that doesn't change your life. But by now, you're no longer chasing one big win. You're building another reliable stream of cash flow. You keep the previous owner's service technician. He earns $18 an hour, refills the machines twice a week, handles basic maintenance, and updates a spreadsheet every Friday. You simply review the reports and monitor inventory from your laptop. The funny part? You've never actually seen most of those vending machines. At first, that sounds ridiculous. Then you remember. You also own a laundromat you rarely visit and a storage facility you almost never walk through. Maybe this is just how your businesses operate now. At 34, another opportunity appears: a 3-bay, self service car wash in Ohio. It sits on a busy road with steady traffic. The previous owner has passed away, and the family wants to sell the property quickly. The purchase price is $410,000. After utilities, lease payments, maintenance, and a part time employee who handles cleaning and small repairs, the business brings in around $7,800 a month in net income. You follow the same formula you've used before: put money down, finance the rest, install remote monitoring for the payment kiosks, check the dashboard once a week. Simple, predictable, almost boring. Exactly the way you like it. This is also the year you finally leave your corporate job. There's no dramatic announcement, no emotional LinkedIn post about taking the leap, no photo of yourself on a beach talking about freedom. You simply hand in your notice. Your manager asks what you're planning next. You tell him you're going to spend more time managing a few small businesses. He wishes you luck. You can tell he doesn't really understand what that means. You don't try to explain. At this point, your four businesses are already producing around $24,100 every month in net income, nearly $290,000 a year. Your salary simply doesn't make financial sense anymore, so you walk away. Not because you hate your job, not because you're burned out. You leave because the numbers make the decision for you. Why keep trading 40 hours every week when the businesses you already own are paying you more than your employer ever could. At 35, you add another business, a smaller two-bay car wash, lower revenue, better margins, purchase price, 290,000, monthly profit, roughly $5,300. A year later, you buy a small logistics company, just 2 trucks, local freight routes, steady contracts with 3 regional retailers, purchase price, $390,000. After payroll, insurance, maintenance, and fuel, it produces around $8,100 a month in profit. Just like that. You own 6 businesses, not flashy startups, not trendy tech companies. Just 6 ordinary businesses that quietly solve everyday problems. A laundromat, a storage facility, a vending machine route, 2 car washes, and a local trucking company. Together, the portfolio is valued at roughly $12.4 million. Monthly revenue usually falls somewhere between $140,000 and $155,000, depending on the season. After expenses, loan payments, payroll, and operating costs, the businesses generate between $62,000 and $71,000 every month in net income. You pay yourself $8,500 a month through an umbrella LLC, following your CPA's advice. Everything else stays inside the companies, either strengthening the businesses or waiting for the next acquisition. And this is where life starts to feel different. You don't have a fancy office. Some days you work from your apartment, other days from a coffee shop, sometimes from your parents' house when you're visiting. Your office is wherever your laptop happens to be. Tuesday mornings are reserved for reviewing financial reports. All 6 businesses, about 90 minutes. Wednesday is manager check-in day. A handful of phone calls, most last less than 10 minutes. Thursday is reserved for unexpected problems. Most weeks, there aren't many. Maybe a washer needs a repair, a vending location wants to renegotiate, a storage tenant misses a payment, one of the trucks needs new tires. You solve the problem, then move on. And eventually you realize something people rarely talk about. Real wealth doesn't always look wealthy. From the outside, your life is surprisingly ordinary. You drive a paid-off 2019 Honda Accord. You wear the same handful of shirts every week, dark jeans, white sneakers. If someone saw you working quietly in a coffee shop, they'd probably assume you were just another remote employee. The man sitting beside him at Panera eventually closed his laptop. He looked exhausted. He rubbed his eyes. For a moment, he looked exactly like the person he used to be. Someone carrying the pressure of a life controlled by deadlines and expectations. He didn't know that stranger's story, but he understood the feeling. The man packed up his things and walked away. He stayed, because he had nowhere he needed to rush to. And that was the entire point. This is what real wealth looks like when nobody is watching. Not a private jet, not a mansion, not millions of followers, just quiet ownership. 6 businesses, millions in assets, thousands of dollars arriving every month. Built through simple decisions, boring industries, careful planning, and years of consistency. The reward wasn't becoming impressive. The reward was becoming free. Most people never choose this path, not because opportunities don't exist, but because they can't accept how ordinary success can look from the outside. They want something exciting, something everyone understands, something they can explain at dinner. But the people who truly value freedom understand something different. Boring can be the strategy. Invisible can be the advantage. And sometimes the best wealth is the kind nobody notices. He closed his laptop, checked his phone. Dennis had sent an update. The storage grate was fixed. 2 new tenants had signed. Laura sent the laundromat numbers. Revenue was up from last month. The pressure washing owner from Tennessee wanted to discuss the deal. He would look at it. Tomorrow, today he was done. He walked outside, got into his paid-off Honda, and drove home. Maybe he would call a friend, maybe read a book, maybe do nothing at all, because he could. And for the first time in his life, that was enough.